There are definite themes that have emerged whenever I work with clients, groups, and in my own life as well. These themes are really tactics that the enemy uses to manipulate our minds and our emotions. These are things that he tries to use to keep us from discovering the truth about who we are, and more importantly, who God is. So today, we are revisiting one of the most common themes because repetition is key to lasting change. We're going to take another look at these what if thoughts that torment us and often lead us deep into anxiety, worry, doubt, and fear. See, we need to continually bring these lies to light and walk in the freedom that Christ gives us. So let's dive in. Are you a Christian woman who's ready to strengthen your faith and stop the madness in your mind? The worry, doubt, anxiety. Do you want something more for your life but are not sure where to even begin? You've come to the right place. Hi, I'm Kristen Campbell. I'm excited that you're here as we journey together to discover mindset renewal and empowered faith for the Christian woman. But before we get into today's episode, I have a couple exciting announcements to make. First of all, did you know that each podcast comes with a free reflection guide that you can download on my website? Each guide is written in a journal format, and it features 5 questions specific to that week's episode. And these help you to go deeper with the Lord. So go ahead, visit my website at thekristencampbell.com and look for these downloads under the podcast files. Also, starting January 5th, 2026, new episodes of the Mindset Renewal and Empowered Faith podcasts are going to air weekly on Mondays. So this means you can start your week empowered with God's truth and his promises. I can't wait. Mark your calendars. New podcast launches are going to be weekly on Mondays beginning January 5th. Well, today we are once again tackling anxiety, specifically the worry, fear, and doubt that rises up when we allow ourselves to ruminate on what if thoughts. Now, many people brush these thoughts off as I'm just being cautious, or what I once proudly boasted as having high functioning anxiety. Listen, that's just a fancy way to describe living in fear. And as a Christian, we are told not to live in fear, not to give in to fear. In fact, 2 Timothy 1:7 tells us, for God didn't give us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So you can fancy label it all you want. Fear, high functioning anxiety, it's not of God. And how can it be? Overthinking every decision, having a backup plan to your backup plan, being paralyzed in making decisions and second guessing yourself, just losing sleep over what may or may not happen. I mean, these are all examples of how fear torments you. And they are all the exact opposite of how God calls us to live. He calls us to live in his love, in his grace, his freedom. And yet we all fall into these patterns from time to time. And I want to encourage you to really give thought to this. What's driving this in you specifically? What belief are you living under that takes you down this road? And if you're stuck, I'll give you a hint. This isn't going to cover everybody's, but a lot of times this is linked to our beliefs surrounding control. How is your need to control your life negatively impacting your life? See, for some of us, this control is born out of our seeking validation, and we crave other people's approval. So we overthink, we overanalyze, we rehearse all these what if scenarios, hoping to choose the one that will bring us that acceptance that we long for. We want to control how others perceive us, and that's really a futile quest. We don't have that power. Some of us are paralyzed by a fear of failing, of making a mistake, of ruining our lives or someone else's. And we carry this heavy burden, again, of a power we don't actually possess. We strive to control our lives and even the lives of those around us. And it's exhausting. Mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, it's exhausting when we go down this road of what if thinking. And it's fruitless. It produces nothing of any value or worth. You want to know something else? It binds you to the enemy. Every thought that doesn't glorify the Lord, that we entertain, which fear and worry, when they're entertained, they don't glorify the Lord. What do? They glorify the enemy. This is part of that black and white that the Bible is known for. And I know that we as humans, man, we love these shades of gray, but that's just not how God operates. God's not a God of confusion. He's not a God of chaos. He is a God of order, who has clearly told us through his word how we are to live. He doesn't sugarcoat things. He doesn't bend things. He doesn't shade anything. He doesn't change his mind. And either you are for him or you are against him in Matthew 12:30. And that's in every area of your life, your thoughts included. Now, I don't want to get too much off topic, but this neutral zone mindset that the world is offering up, that's a trap of the enemy. There's no neutral zone in the kingdom of God. It's one side or the other. And this includes your thoughts. So while you may believe that occasionally worrying is harmless or helpful even, it's not. We need to be very clear and call worry out for what it is, a lack of trust in God. That's it. Black and white. No neutral, no shades of gray. We are told throughout the Bible not to worry because it takes us away from God. And listen, I've heard it all. I've said most of it. I've done the I'm Italian. That's what we do. I'm a mother. I need to worry. I'm a this or that. You go ahead and fill in the blank, but no more. If you're a Christian, that's your identity, then worry is what you don't do. Because ultimately, what are you trying to accomplish with your worrying? Again, be honest. Are you trying to control the outcome based on your knowledge and your plan? And please, I am not bashing on you. I did this for years. And from time to time, I still get snared in it. And I know it's not done maliciously, which is why it's so sneaky. See, we worry about the things that are important to us. And yet it's those things most important to us where God is asking, do you trust me? It's in those things that we have the opportunity to grow in our faith. We have the opportunity to enter into a deeper relationship with the Lord. And that ticks the enemy off. Satan does not want us to have that closeness with the Lord. He knows the Lord is trustworthy. He doesn't want us to know it. So all of these bombs start coming. Well, what if your son turns to drugs? What if that freckle is cancer? What if the door's not locked all the way? What if I lose my job? What if I lose my house? What if? Boom, boom, boom. And our typical first response is we want to take action. We want to worry because we deceive ourselves into believing that somehow if we keep thinking about these things, if we keep playing out all these scenarios, that a magical solution is going to appear and take it all away. Or we falsely believe we can get ahead of it somehow because if we prepare enough, well, we're going to be fine. And that was my belief for a long time. Yet I never reached enough. There was never an end to that striving. I desperately tried to control the outcomes and I rarely had success. And there were so many times where I just wanted to help God out, just in case he didn't realize or he didn't remember some aspect that was really important. And it sounds kind of comical now when I say it out loud, because if you think about it, we're talking about the God who knows the exact number of hairs on our head at any given moment. And yet I have this belief that somehow he's unaware of an essential piece regarding my situation. It doesn't make sense. The truth is, I didn't trust that what God would allow to happen to me or to my kids or to my husband or to the circumstances around me, that it would be good. I didn't trust that it would be good for any of us. I trusted my understanding of how I believed life should unfold more than I trusted God's plan. And when all was said and done, again, black and white, I trusted more in myself than God. So into worry, into anxiety, I went for years and years. And my question for you, where are you placing your trust today? Black and white, dig deep. This is a hard question to answer. And remember, these ifs are just that. They're ifs because we don't know. This would be like an easier question to answer if we knew the outcomes. If we could see what was coming, then it would be easy to say where we're putting our trust. But that's not faith. Faith believes that whatever happens is from God, so it will be for the best. Faith doesn't ask for any more details about what that whatever is or when exactly it's going to turn out good. It just stands firmly on God's character and his promises. Hebrews 11:1 tells us, now faith is the assurance, the confirmation of the things we hope for, being the proof of things we do not see and the conviction of their reality. Faith perceiving as real fact what is not revealed to the senses. And while that all sounds great, how do we do that? I want to share with you what's worked for me. And again, this isn't going to be a one and done. This is a practice that you need to practice. And as long as you're following Christ, as long as you have the capacity to think, the enemy is going to attack your thoughts. So put these things into practice. The first thing is I don't ignore those what ifs. I recognize them for what they are. And I recognize that they're coming from some level of concern or care that I have. So if you remember, most of these what ifs pertain to something that is important to us. We worry about the things that are important to us. And just shoving them aside or putting on some facade of like, well, I don't worry, while they're hiding secretly in a dark corner, that does nothing but delay them. On the same time, I don't entertain them. So I don't ignore them, but I'm also not putting out cheese and crackers for them. I don't give them life. What you feed grows. I don't ruminate over them. I acknowledge them, and then I bring them to Jesus. I take every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. That's 2 Corinthians 10:5. And at this point, this is where I get really, really ugly honest with the Lord about where my heart is, what my concerns are, what my fears are. And I always think of David throughout the Psalms, and I just love him. He was brutally honest with the Lord, and he's referred to as a man after the Lord's heart. Now, he was not perfect. He made a lot of mistakes. But in this area, I encourage you to follow his example. Read through the Psalms. Read how he brings it all before the Lord in a brutally honest manner. And that's what we want to do. The Lord knows anyway. So bringing all of these fears, all these worries, all of these thoughts, expose them, bring them to the light, bring them to the Lord. Get brutally honest. And there are times I just cry out, I'm not equipped to handle this. I need your help, Lord. And then I start just talking with the Lord. I start asking questions. What am I most afraid of in this? What is the worst case scenario that my mind is giving me here? And you may want to write this all out, because sometimes I have to write it out, whether it makes sense or not, because a lot of times these worst case scenarios that we're so scared of, that they really have a grip on us, when we write them down and then we look at them, we're like, that doesn't even make sense. But if we don't bring them to light, they stay in that torment mode in our mind. So ask the Lord, what is it? Listen, take notes, take all the information, all the fears that are revealed, all the insecurities, all the areas that we're trying to control. Okay. Now here's a key. Don't dwell on this. Okay. So when God reveals these things to me, this is what I'm fearing. This is what I'm trying to control. This is where my anxiety is, settled in. I don't set up camp here. I don't go into a pity party and go deeper into this anxiety, but I use this information to my advantage, because now that I've brought it to light, I can begin to ask myself, can I trust you, Lord, with all of this? Can I give this over to you? And now this is a loaded question, because the first part of it is, am I willing to give it to you? Am I at the point in our relationship, Lord, where I'm willing to relinquish control? Am I at the point where I can trust you? Do I know you enough to know your character as trustworthy? And can I really let this go? Can I surrender this? And when I finally get to the place of being able to say yes, which, being fully transparent here, depending on the size of that what if, this might take a while. Now, you may need to go back and do some foundational work of getting into the word to learn more about who God is and what he promises. You may need support surrounding this. But once you get to that place, to that point where you're willing to surrender, then what you want to do is you want to reframe that what if. You want to renew that thought. And there's only one if that I have found that leads me to Jesus. And it's even if. And I start to reframe this. Lord, even if my son turns to drugs, God, you have a good plan for his life. You've called him by name. He is yours. You will not ever leave him nor forsake him. Lord, even if this freckle is cancer, God, you are my healer. You are my strength. You are my comfort. You are my hope and my song. Even if I lose my job, God, you're my provider. You will not allow me to lack any good thing. And I begin to reframe that thought and echo Habakkuk, that fun little book in the Bible. But what he says in chapter 3 is he says, even though, and then he lists all these calamities that can happen. And he says, even though, or even if, yet I will take joy in the Lord. Trusting in the Lord leads to joy. Trusting in yourself leads to anxiety. You have the choice. Are you willing to surrender your what ifs to the Lord? Surrendering your control over them, bringing the fears to light, and trusting in the Lord to bring about his good plan for your life in his timing. 1 Peter 5, 6-7 sums this up, and it says, "Therefore, humble yourself under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you at the proper time, casting all your anxiety on him because he cares for you." And he does. He cares for you beyond your understanding. He's faithful to his promises for your life. Will you trust him? Thank you for listening to today's podcast. I hope you walk away a little stronger in your faith and freer in your mind. Come back next week as we look at the other if that might be tormenting your life. Don't forget, God loves you so much. He cares for you. Be blessed. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. I hope you walked away a little stronger in your faith and freer in your mind. You are so loved. If you like this episode, share it with a friend. Leave your ratings and reviews, and engage with me on social media. I'd love to hear from you.